Man, that was a fantastic episode, and we have so much to talk about. But before we begin, I just want to let all you guys know that I'm doing kind of a challenge this month, 31 videos in 31 days. So if you're seeing my videos all in your subscription feed, that's why. Alright, now on to the actual video. We start off with Fearne, obviously, in a sticky situation. He's surrounded by 3 soldiers, one of which is this high-ranking captain who oversees the factory she's in, and Ashley Johnson's plan is so thematic. It is to just lie her ass off and try to get out of the situation. And honestly, I think some of the lies were pretty good, but eventually, the party starts trying to break in, and the old enemy, a door, resurfaces because they cannot break down this fucking door. And as all this chaos is going on, somehow, someway, Fearne gets off a charm person on the captain, and it works. And she befriends him. Maybe a little bit more than befriends, as there's definitely this flirty atmosphere between them. This captain, sorry, I forget his name and I didn't write it down, but he basically explains how Gurge is a werewolf. He just turned into this massive direwolf, so the theories that we've been seeing about that over the course of 2 or 3 weeks seem to be right. And with some more cool talking, Fearne is able to get out the name Artana Vo, who is a bounty hunter that the soldiers were working with to restrain the werewolf Gurge. And after learning all this information, the party then heads back to Lord Esteros. They learn a few things. One, that the Treshy are probably part of the Quorum, that there is a ball in the new future that he has been invited to but has never attended in the past few years. And that feels like, based on what we learned in the later parts of the episode, that Matt is setting up a big event at the ball, so we'll probably be going to it at some point in the future. And then we get a name, Preyo Madali, who has connections to Artana Vo. Ashton, not surprisingly, has connections to this person, and the party goes and, makes their acquaintance, sits down. To smooth things over, Ashton buys a bottle of plum wine liqueur that is worth 85 gold pieces, and we get a little bit of back and forth between Fearne and Ashton as Fearne seals back an earring that she picked from a Pachyodon in the first episode of this new campaign. Hijinks begin to ensue almost immediately, and there's far too much to try to cover here, but what you need to know is that Chetney is able to find a hidden door behind what he thinks is a bookshelf, but it was actually just kind of a trolley cart. And so the crew devises many distractions. Fresh cut grass is able to put a bottle on his head, and with a very opportune natural 20 distract pretty much all of the bar. And then Fearne orders some food and asks for the chef to come out so that the room would be empty and Chetney and the others can basically sneak in. And that's when the star of this session comes out. Pretty the ogre, the chef, who was brought basically to tears that someone loved his greasy food that would probably give lesser creatures heart attacks. And honestly, I swear to God, if anything happens to Pretty, I am going to be so upset, because he's just so full of love and care, and I think along with the Shadow Baker, he might be my favorite NPC at this point. And when they're actually leaving the tavern, Imogen asks Pretty out on a date, and Fearne and Laudna are going too, and I hope he does not get stood up on his date. If Pretty gets stood up, I swear to God, next video, I am going off, because he doesn't deserve this. He is just an ogre, cooking food the best way he knows how, trying to meet ends meet, and then he gets asked out on a date, is so excited, working hard, and then nothing? Hell no. Hell no. I will raise all hell if he does not get his date, because it would not be cool. Pretty does not deserve any of that bullshit, and I hope the date, the date will happen. I have complete hope and faith in the cast of that, and I hope it goes well, and I hope the fan art is awesome. No matter what though, I just want the best for our new favorite ogre. But while the Pretty situation is happening, the rest of the party goes down and meets Artana Vo, the bounty hunter, who shoots Orem and almost shoots Dorian. The conversation is certainly intense, and Dorian probably gives up a bit more information than he would have wanted, as Artana Vo, now looking at Dorian, kind of sees his brother, Cyrus. And I have a feeling it might come back and bite Dorian in the butt, because it's a 20,000 gold bounty, and if she doesn't go to collect on it, she might tell others where to look. Because if a bounty hunter goes after Dorian, they might be thinking that they can also get to his brother Cyrus. So the Wyvernwind boys might be in some trouble. But through everything, we get a name. Vali de Trana, who's in the Moon Tower and Core Spire, who is the next lead. Now, there are a few interesting things I picked up about Vali de Trana. Firstly, he's the business commissioner in, I think it was the Mirror Towers, but works out of the Moon Tower. There's been a lot of shady business dealings going on lately. Furniture coming to life for one, the moving of Broomstone. It feels like Vali de Trana would have the means to help whoever is really behind all this. As at the end of the episode, we kind of learn it's probably not him. He's also in the Moon Tower, which, if Gurge is a werewolf, there's an interesting linking there. I also wonder if he's linked to the Treshies. It feels like there's a very high likelihood that he is, and maybe the person that he was talking to was a Treshi, this Ira fellow. We will talk about Ira later on in this episode. But after getting their lead, the party is going to head back to Lord Esteros, and he's cooking, and he has made some fabulous maple cookies with some turmeric and ginger. And it's nice to see our man improving with his cooking skills. Again, I want a crossover with him, Pretty, and the Shadow Baker. It feels like cooking is going to be something that is an underlying thread throughout this campaign, and honestly, I'm really happy about it. Maybe one of our, main party members can finally take like a chef feat. I don't know, I think it would be fun. There's also some planning that goes down. Before the girls date with Pretty, they decide that they're going to go scope out the Moon Tower. The very important date, actually Imogen's first date, we learn. She's never been on a date before, and I think it's this beautiful look into her character that Laura gives us in this moment. Because yeah, it would really be hard to date someone when you could just read all of their thoughts and know exactly what you were doing wrong, or all their insecurities or holdups about yourself. I just thought it was a beautiful piece of character building from Laura. And then they head to the Moon Tower, and Matt unleashes the rain effects in the studio. And once again, Marisha and her team did such an awesome job because they're so atmospheric and honestly amazing. And with a new pass from Lord E, they are able to get into the Moon Tower, and there's a moment when they're all going to see Vali where Ashton and Fearne keep stealing from each other. Ashton, when Fearne is blinded, steals a chamber pot from her. And I am really enjoying this back and forth dynamic here. It really feels like the party is just bonding more and more and really gelling into the proto-family unit. It will still be many, many sessions before they are truly tight in their bonds, but I can already see it beginning. And then after waiting, the party learns that Vali's not in. He's not there. And of course, immediately everyone is suspicious. All the cast, the audience, me, everyone knows that something is going on. Dorian, with a fantastic play, turns Chetney invisible, and Chetney attempts to go on another one of his stealth missions to pick the lock and get inside. And the lock is a DC 25 lock. It's a masterwork construction. So they have to use some trickery and shenanigans to eventually have Chetney get an opening to follow a servant inside. And let me say for a moment that Chetney in this episode was great. He made me laugh. He was super useful to the party in general, and I think he just gave a lot to the overall game. And I'm so thankful that Travis is back. And while in the room, he finds many, many things. One, a secret door behind a bookshelf, so furniture kind of strikes again, being the thing that stands between this party and their goals. He also is able to open up a lock in a desk, and as he opens it up, he finds 100 platinum in a book with all of these business dealings. And one name certainly stands out, the Nightmare King. Yeah, that's a evil villain name if I've ever heard one. There's not a doubt in my mind that 40 or 50 sessions down the line from here, we are going to be thinking of the Nightmare King as one of the biggest villains we've ever heard of in Critical Role. Because Matthew Mercer does not drop a name like that lightly. And here I'm wondering what he has to do with dreams, because we've gotten flashes and hints about dreams in some of the background of this campaign. We got Moonlord this session. Ruidus doesn't wane. It's always this solid red color. Now I'm going to pull out some real-world science, which may or may not apply into a fantasy magical world, but Katha, the largest and regular moon in Exandria, does have phases. And phases are created by the moon rotating around our Earth. And it's not the moon giving off light, it's the reflection from the sun that is giving the moon its glow in the night sky. But Ruidus always has the glow, so it is emitting its own light, and sometimes Ruidus flashes. It is a sign of ill omen, according to Matt Mercer. So I definitely think that this entity, this moon Ruidus, is going to play some part in this campaign, and the Nightmare King with dreams, the night sky, everything, I think that that might be a connection as well. Whatever the case, I'm excited to see who the Nightmare King is. And after looting some more, Travis finds the secret entryway to activate the door behind the bookshelf, and he's alone. He's in a locked room, no one there to help him, and Travis Willingham makes the play. He says, "I'm not waiting," and goes down. And these are the decisions that I always want my players as a DM to make, because I think playing it safe all the time is not core necessarily to the D&D mindset. D&D is heroic fantasy. It is a place for there to be heroes, anti-heroes, sometimes villains, but always this good and evil struggle, and sometimes you need to make the big play. And I think Travis was handsomely rewarded for his play. Marching down this hidden staircase, he begins to hear noises. Two individuals, one I believe is Vali, the other an individual named Ira. And they talk about how their patron is plotting new legislation in the coming weeks. A patron most certainly of the Chandri Quorum. At least that's what I think, because I don't know of any other thing that makes sense yet. And then this individual, Ira, talks about the beautiful pattern that they have laid across the city that Vali cannot yet understand. Their voice itself gives me the creeps. And then based off of Vali's description of his cruel arrogance, definitely someone that the party will be watching out for in the coming weeks and sessions. Ira requests bringing people to him, some riffraff, perhaps even a Mahan child for his experiments. He begins talking about the next wave, and then he's cut off. And I'm thinking, the next wave of what? And then I remember what happened to Duggar, and also the strange shade creepers. Did we just learn who has been slowly weaving all of these crazy arcane creatures throughout the city? Maybe he's at the bottom of the deep hole that the party found. Vali is obviously scared of him, but Ira assures that he'll be leaving soon when his work is done. What's the work? They obviously have a combined patron with some type of goal. I would have to assume this would be the Nightmare King. And I have to make a few connections here, because we've heard the name Ira before. Ira was one of the Somnovum in Cognosa. He was one of the Eyes of Nine. He was the hateful one that the party encountered. I believe you can go to about an hour into the Welcome to Cognosa episode in Critical Role Season 2, and you can experience him and showing up. All the souls were released from Cognosa. Maybe Ira found somewhere to be. And if it's the same Ira, then we also have another connection, the Angel of Irons. Matt said in a Talks Machina that the Chained Oblivion, Tharizdun, always likes to have a different name or pseudonym. And the Nightmare King? Man, that's a great pseudonym to be under. It would fit. I know that there are potential theories out there that Ruidus is connected to Tharizdun or another one of the Betrayer gods. Ruidus is also supposed to play a part in the new Critical Role adventure called the Netherdeep, so that could be adding into this whole thing. I don't know, with all the dreams, twisting plots, and nightmare elements, it does feel like if it's not Tharizdun, there is a dark god at work here. But before we get to know more, the conversation ends, and Chetney is sent scuttling up the staircase trying to escape, but the door is locked. Vali comes up. He is a half-elven man dressed in nice clothing. I'm saying Vali. We don't know for sure it's Vali, but I'm like 99% sure it's him. And then he detects that Chetney is in the room, and his magical saber flies off the wall, begins hacking around the room, and right before he's about to hit Chetney, Travis makes the bold decision to run and jump through the stained glass window into the rain and run off into the night. And yeah, that's where the episode ends. We have a lot coming up in the future, and it does feel like Matt is setting up for something big. And as a viewer, a player, DM, these are always my favorite moments, when you know that something is happening, but you don't know exactly what. And right now it's up to the party to, I guess, prevent disaster across the city of Jrusar. I'm sensing that there might be some event, like I talked about a few episodes back, that perhaps the Shade Creepers are just going to burst up all around the city, and it feels like it will be a domino effect like that, but perhaps even worse. All the pieces are moving around the board, and in the next coming weeks, I'm going to be happy to keep making these videos and going through it with all of you. I have so many questions this week, I'm not going to even do the 3 questions because I have a billion questions. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, and see what Matt Mercer and the cast have up their sleeves next. If you liked this video and need more things to watch, I'm doing, again, 31 videos in 31 days, so check them out on the channel. This is the newest video, and thank you for entering the dungeon.